Hello everyone, it's Natasha from Treasure Books. Hello, Bejeweled Treasure Binding. Where have you been all my life? In this video, I will guide you through the process of creating these luxurious handmade journals from start to finish using everyday items that you probably already have at home. These journals are not only simple to make with step-by-step instruction, which I will, of course, provide, but also serve as beautiful keepsakes or thoughtful gifts or even items that you can sell. All right, let's get started. The very first thing I'm going to do is choose a background, and this is the background that I'm talking about. And then I'm going to build my book, and the bling comes last. So when it comes to the background, the kinds of things that I'm looking for is some sort of symmetry. So I'll just show you what I've got here. Is I cut up carpet catalog, and I have all of these are all carpets, right? And then, oh, look at this. And then this is where I actually got my idea from, because there's all these beautiful images. Look at this one. And I am planning to make this into pages for a journal. I'm planning to line it up with a piece of paper on the back, and then it will be a page for my journal like this. But for this project, I'm also going to use them as journaling spots, but that's all irrelevant for this project. I just want to show you what I'm looking for, because most likely you won't have this carpet book at home. So, I'm just showing you this, and then I'll give you alternative examples. Basically, what I'm looking for is some sort of a symmetry. Oh, I love this one. I think I'm going to use this one for my video today. So this one has something in the middle. It's symmetrical. It's got these squares and rectangles up the top, and it's very easy to build something that makes sense with our bling. I mean, any of these will work. You can put a central piece here and then build around it. If you don't have this carpet book, which I assume you don't, you can pull out your scrapbook papers. I pulled this one out just to show you. And as you can see, this paper has this kind of central point here, and then you can cut it up into the size that you want. And this design is going to give you a guideline for building with the bling. Because what happens if you have something, let's say, that looks like this, it's a very random design, and then you start trying to bling it up, let's say, it's going to be very difficult to create something that actually works and looks cohesive and doesn't look too busy. And that doesn't look too bad actually, but at this stage I'm just trying to make your life a little bit easier by kind of explaining all of these things. But you know what, in all honesty, any background is going to work, even things like magazines and other catalogs and stuff like that. This is a furniture catalog, and you can see images like these, and you can use the design in the picture to build something that looks blingy. And you can cut up a section out of something like this, for example, and then draw your own design, draw circles, draw lines, and then you can start gluing down your pieces, your little bling pieces, to have it make sense, because you don't want to just kind of glue a whole bunch of stuff down. So this is the piece that I chose for my book, and in all honesty, if I just made a book and stuck this on top, I think it's going to look amazing. You probably wouldn't know at first that it's a carpet, but blinging it up, I mean, you simply cannot compare. Like, it just looks so much better when it's nice and blinged up. By the way, we're going to do everything today, all this fun stuff. Look how cool this looks, very rich. Perhaps not everyone's cup of tea, but I'm loving it. By the way, this is old necklaces and buttons and This is cork here that I've painted. Anyway, we'll get to all the details. So at this stage, the piece is chosen, and I just want to say right here, right now, that it's easier to make a smaller book than it is to make a larger book when it comes to the bling, because there's a lot of gluing of the pieces down, and when you have a large surface, it's much harder to make a design that works, that makes sense. And then of course there's more work when you're having to glue everything down. So I think for this kind of a project, I opted for a smaller book, and I will give you the measurements. I'll write them on screen as we go along making this book. So next thing we're going to do is make the book. I'm using this really quite thick cardboard that I have from the back of writing pad, and I already drew myself a line just so I can speed this up a bit, but I wanted to show you this is my image, and I need to cut out front and back covers that are obviously slightly larger than my piece, because of course, oh, I thought that was my nose. It's actually my camera. So obviously we want to make our covers slightly larger than the image that we've chosen. My front piece and the image I've chosen is slightly larger than 3.5 inches by 5 inches. And now I'm going to cut my front and back covers down. These are the measurements of the covers that I'm going to cut out. I'm going to cut out 2 of these panels, one for front and one for back. And the reason these measurements are so weird is because I don't measure anything, and I don't know, I just never measure anything, but I always have people asking me, what's the size of that cover? What's the size of that thing you used? So I thought I'll include it in this video. And here it is in both inches and centimeters, because people sometimes ask me, what's that in centimeters? So there we have it. Now I am going to cut this out. There's my first one cut out, and I'm going to use that kind of to cut up my second one, because I want them to be, of course, exactly the same size, because they will be the front and back panels of my book. By the way, I've had this idea to make this kind of thing for such a long time, and the inspiration, I did say, came from this carpet book. It kind of did. The real inspiration, the very first time I had the idea, came from this thing called treasure bindings. I'll show you right now so you don't have to leave. All right, I have my front and back panels ready. All right, here we go. Are you ready to be blown away? I typed in treasure bindings or treasure binding into Google, and look at all of this. Just feast, 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 my friends. This is what I'm talking about. This is the kind of inspiration. Look at this. This one even looks like a carpet book. Look at this. How beautiful. A lot of them do have religious kind of undertones. See, this one is medieval treasure binding, and then it's got, you know, so lots and lots of beautiful, how would you describe this? Like, it's magnificent. So I'm not saying that I managed to recreate that kind of thing, but that is the inspiration. I just want to reiterate that what I've just shown you is inspiration only, and I wasn't trying to recreate medieval treasure bindings, because that's, you know, not something that I can do here in my little craft studio. You know, I would want to do a full research of the history and what it all means and when it's all from and all that kind of thing if I was trying to recreate that. I only took a little bit of inspiration from there and glued some random bits of, you know, old jewelry down in a book, and now I'm showing you how you can recreate the same kind of thing. All right, we've got the 2 panels ready to go, and now I just need a spine. I wanted to do a kind of a thinner spine. Well, not really a thinner spine. I wanted to do 2 signatures, and I decided to go with a spine that's 2 centimeters. All right, so here's the spine. The spine is 3/4 of an inch wide, or 2 centimeters, you know, depending on what metric system you use. But basically we have 3 pieces that are exactly the same height, and we have these 2 pieces are exactly the same overall, and then we have the spine. So now the next thing we're going to do is make that cover. I am going to use this piece of material that I have. I'm not sure exactly what this is, but it's some type of a fabric. You can use any type of fabric. I would probably still steer clear of scrapbook paper and things like that, paper in general, because it's not sturdy enough to withhold the opening and the closing of the journal here at the spine. So definitely go for fabric. However, having said that, you absolutely do not have to. I mean, there's always ways around it. So this one here, it's just painted. It's exactly the same thing, but it's been painted. And then you can actually see where I have the three pieces: front panel, spine, back panel. And the only thing that's keeping them together is the fabric piece that I placed underneath. Okay, so they are joined together by fabric piece, a piece that's barely visible on the outside, but you know, and on the inside as well. Okay, so if you don't want to, you can kind of paint the pieces and then join them together with masking tape. I mean, there's millions of ways, but let's just keep going, and I'm gonna stop over explaining. So here we go. I'm going to glue my pieces down. I'm using fabric glue. Any glue will do really, but I have the fabric glue and I'm using fabric, so I'm going to use that. The main thing, I suppose, is not to over flood it with glue, which seems like is what I have done over here, because you don't want the glue seeping through the fabric and ruining it, basically. All right, piece number one is down. My next piece is going to be the spine. And I like to place the spine a little bit away, so I lift this piece up to make sure that there's not enough space for opening and the closing of the journal. Make sure it's aligned nicely and a little bit of space there. Beautiful. And again, we're leaving space here, approximately the same amount of space. That looks all right. And I like to use a ruler just to make sure that everything is nice and in line. Perfect. I don't want, you know, the spine kind of being up higher and whatnot. All right, next thing we're going to do, cut off this excess fabric. Banjo just came back from a walk and he's having zoomies, in case if you can hear craziness. All right, now that that's cut around, I can press this down. And next thing I'm going to do is miter the corners, leaving a little bit of space here so that we can wrap those corners nicely. Oh. Banjo's having zoom. Oh goodness. Excellent. Okay, now we're going to wrap, and I don't generally use double-sided tape for this kind of thing, but this material isn't very pliable. It's quite stiff, so I need something that's going to keep it down as I'm working. I'm not relying on double-sided tape to keep it in place. I am going to use glue, but this is just kind of to keep it in place while I'm applying glue, I suppose. I don't know. Anyway, I generally like to fold the shorter sides down first, apply a little bit of glue there to the corners, and then glue over here. And basically what happens, because this glue that I used, it's wet, the double-sided tape is keeping my fabric down and in place while the glue is drying. The glue is actually what's going to keep it down long term. Okay, apply glue a little bit to the corners and up here and fold it down. Excellent. Okay, now what I like to do here firstly is go in with a little bit of glue into the corner right over here. So you might notice me using different types of glue, and mostly it's because of like I'm using this glue here because it's got a small nozzle, you know, and it's easy to get into that space. That's the only reason. And now apply this glue here. And the reason I'm applying the glue up here and not down here is because this, I know for a fact, it's going to be covered completely. The edges are not going to be covered. The edges in the final product are always visible on the outside and on the inside. And I'm trying to prevent this glue being visible, right? Because there might be glue seeping through and whatnot. So that's why I put it up. All right, and what I do here with the corners, I bring it down like this. So when this folds up in a moment, I have a nice and neat corner. So first I do that with the corners, and then I fold this up. I start in the middle and then fold up. Check that the corners are nice and neat. Excellent. And now do the same on the other side. Corners down. All right, excellent. That's the outside of the book done. Look at that, nice and neat and perfect and beautiful. All right, and nice corners, that's the main thing. Okay, now what we want to do is cover the spine. I am using just a little bit of fabric, and by the way, this book that I was showing you just before, I skipped this part that I just done and just placed my 3 pieces together and glued them down together with the fabric. So that's how it's held together, just by that piece of fabric inside. Okay, but for this project, I am using this fabric. I want it slightly shorter than my book. I like the look of frayed edges, and that's going to be glued right there. So back in with the fabric glue. I'm just being really careful here not to have this glue go into the grooves and seep through, because there's nothing worse than working on a project and then when everything is done and dried and whatnot, you realize that you can see all the glue seeping through. It's just the worst. It's the worst feeling, you know, when you spend time on a project and then it sucks basically, because I mean, you can always fix it, you know, there's always remedies, you can cover it up and whatnot, but for this thing, and especially because I'm using black fabric, it can be really visible. So I'm really being careful not to have glue seeping through. All right, so I've applied the glue there. I'm gonna go in and just glue the spine down first, and then I'm gonna go into the groove. This material is quite thick that I can't even fit it into that groove, and it's fine. It doesn't matter. It still works. So we're going to do this, and now I'm going to go into the groove with this one here and do this. Perfect. And just check. My book is opening and closing beautifully. Excellent. And now if I need to add a little bit more glue to glue this down, I'm going to do that at this stage. Excellent. Oh, sweet. Probably could have gone a little bit more up with this fabric, because our next step is going to be to cover the panels, and I'm going to cut pieces of paper here to cover the panels, and I like my pieces of paper to be covering this thing. You'll see in a moment. This here is now just perfectionism rearing its ugly head, because I know this is not the most important thing in the world right now, but I just cannot help myself. Next thing, like I said, we're covering the panels here. And also, like I said, I like to cover. I don't like this kind of look. I don't like that being showing through. If you're making a book that you really want to be perfect and professional and all of that, it's these little tiny things that matters, because if you cut your paper down a little bit shorter, then all of this is going to be sticking out, right? See this when I open this? You can see the inside of the fabric. I use the same fabric, but you can't see the top of the fabric here. Can you see the bottom? Tiny little bit. So, you know, don't be obviously too much of a perfectionist, but if you can see a little bit, it's fine, but you don't want to leave a whole chunk of fabric sticking out. And what's even worse, if the fabric isn't straight and then you have like, I don't know, it's just the minor details. It's always these little things that make the cut. So this happens to be the perfect size. So I'm just going to mark myself where I need to cut. And then of course I need 2 of those. And here we are, 2 panels. And now they just need to be glued down. I'm just double checking that everything is good. All right, perfect. That's how it's going to look. First, I want to ink the edges to get rid of that white edge. That's the main reason why I ink the edges, because this is another little detail. Look at this one. Just look at the paper and the white edge before it's inked and after it's inked. I'm not sure if you can see what I'm talking about there, but it truly is the little things that you wouldn't think of. The things that you think, oh, no one's going to notice that. No one cares about that. It is those things that really matter and that really put your product apart from other people's stuff. So sometimes I worry that I go into too much detail, and you know, people tell me that I talk too much. As I've mentioned already in previous videos, people tell me you talk too much. Listen, I don't get offended by that, so you don't have to defend me or anything like that. It's just stating a fact. Perhaps I can talk too much, but I feel like 90%, if not a little bit more, of the things that I say are absolutely necessary to know, in my opinion. They are relevant to the project, like these edges that I was talking about. Anyway, I don't know why I went down this train of thought, so I'm going to just stop it. Stop it, Natasha. All right, here we go. And that's what the inside is looking like. I'm not 100% happy with the corners because you can see a little bit of stickage outage, and you know, that's something that I would have spent more time on perhaps if I wasn't filming, but it's, you know, it doesn't have to be. I don't want to be like manic over here with, oh no, it's ruined now because the corners are sticking out. No, it's fine. All right, this is done. Well, the cover is ready for the next step, and the next step is to actually bind the signatures, like make the signatures and bind the signatures and have the book ready to go before we do any of the blingy stuff. So I'm going to prepare everything off camera so that we're not wasting time here, and I'm just going to tell you that I have 2 signatures in my book. That's what I'm going to do, 2 signatures, and there's 8 pages in each signature, so 8 of these folded in half. And I have a range of different pages. I have normal paper, and then I have cardstock paper. So I wanted to make these books. As I said, my kind of inspiration was, I've told you where the inspiration came from, and so I was envisioning ripped edges and kind of burnt edges, maybe, I don't know, but I wasn't envisioning pockets and sewing and ruffles and all the kind of thing that I usually do in my journal. So I decided to go with just plain pages with an aged look, let's say. And there's even pages with like tea staining, you know, when it was drying, and even I can't find any now. I'm trying to show you like this kind of thing, you know. And look at this. This is all when it was dried on a hot day. This is how it dried, and I just love the look of that. Very vintage looking, and the pages look kind of old, and that's what I'm going for because that's kind of the thing, you know, kind of the theme. And all right, I'll be right back. Here I have 16 pages cut down, and now I'm going to fold them all in half and then place them into signatures. Here we go, 2 signatures, 8 folded pages each. And now grab my book. I left a little bit of space up the top and a little bit of space down the bottom, and now I need to trim the pages down, but I want them to go nearly all the way to the edge so that they are just kind of there, you know, they're not hidden all the way inside. And now I'm going to trim them down. That's signature number 1 done, and now I'm going to place that signature on top of my signature number 2, and I'll use that as a guide to cut my second signature down. And here we go. Perfect. I'm just going to double check that everything is nice and looking good. Look at that. So beautiful. So nice. And now I'm going to ink away, and I'm going to ink them all at once, and I'm really going for it. And then I'll also do a little bit individually if I have to. All right, perfect. Everything is nice and inked, and now it's time to bind, and we'll go through really quickly. I made myself a template exactly the same height as my signatures, and I found the center, and of course, you know how we do this. We're doing a 3-hole pamphlet stitch, but I'm going to use this template first to poke the holes through my spine. So I need 2 signatures and I want them evenly spaced. And I do find this a little bit difficult because it's easier when you have odd number of signatures, then you can find the center and then go from there. But in this case, I just need 2 lines and they have to be spaced evenly, you know, on that spine. So you can of course eyeball this, but I am a little bit particular with this project because of the beads and the spine. So I want them to be equally spaced. So first thing I do is find the middle. This is my middle. And then I'm gonna go perhaps 4 millimeters this way from the middle and 4 millimeters this way from the middle. And I just draw myself 2 lines and I kind of hope for the best at this stage. Like I'm just gonna double check that looks like it's, you know, evenly spaced, I suppose. Turn it this way. I'm gonna protect my desk. And now I have my template. Make sure that my cover is facing the right way up. And I have a note here telling me that that's the top. So I'm going to align my template with the line over here that I've made, the first line. I've aligned it with that first line, and now I'm looking at this end here and this end here, and I have to make sure that my template is right there in the middle somewhere. And if we make a mistake, once I punch the hole, you'll be able to see on the spine straight away. If we make a mistake, then we'll find a way to fix it. So here we go. Now I know I need to poke a hole here, here, and here. Off I go. All right, first set of holes done. And now for the second set of holes, I'm going to do the same thing. Of course, you have to make sure the template is nice and straight along this edge here, because even if it's a little bit out, then you get a non-straight line here. So, all right, here we go, poking the holes. And here comes the moment of truth. If you get it wrong and your holes are not aligned, then perfect opportunity for some fixing up. And my holes are looking quite all right over here. I know that you can't really see, but I can see. They're evenly spaced, they're in the same line. If they weren't, what I would do is I would hide the existence of the hole in any way that I can. So I'll smush it down a bit and then do the same on the other side and just create another hole. And once everything is bound and done, it's not going to be visible, especially if you're using fabric. If you're using scrapbook paper, which I advise not to, then once a hole is punctured through paper, it's very hard to hide. Fabric, very forgiving. Okay, time to bind the signatures. Don't forget which way is up on your cover. I know because I always tell myself, okay, this blue, well, not always, but now I told myself this blue is the top of my journal, because down here it's not blue, it's cream. So this is my top, and that's important because of the template that we've used. All of our holes have to align. Now I'm going to poke the holes through the signatures. I'll just do one at a time, pop it there in the middle, and off I go. 1, 2, 3. Take the template out. I'll keep this in here for time being. For binding, I'm using this thread. I'm not sure what this is. Perhaps it's like upholstery thread. In fact, I know that it's upholstery thread because my dad gave it to me and he's an upholsterer. So it's not waxed thread, and the thread is a little bit alive, kind of moves around a lot, which I'm not a fan of, but it's very strong and sturdy. So starting from the middle hole, and I'm binding in the first signature, I'm going to go through the middle hole. And now I have to add the beads. I'm using a beading needle, which I only recently acquired, and I've done plenty of beads along the spine before I had the beading needle. So you can still bind if you don't have a beading needle. You just have to make sure that your beads can go through whatever needle you are using. Now I'm going to go in with the beads. So I recently bought this from Kmart. They are just beads, right? Look how cool they look. Should have gotten 2. They were on special. And I'm using these flat beads because if you put chunky beads on the spine, it's going to be in the way of writing on the journal, right? So you either want to use flat beads, flat like this, or really little beads like these. These are not flat beads, they're round, but they're not chunky, they're not big. So they do kind of get, do they get in the way? Not really, to be honest. They don't get in the way actually at all. So I might do one gold, one bronze. And just in case if you want to look for these beads, these are called metallic spacer beads. So you place as many beads as you can fit. So you have to kind of keep checking against the spine to see how many beads you can kind of fit in that space from the hole to the next hole. From here, I'm going to go in through the top hole. It's very hard to see because of this black cover and the weather. The light keeps changing, but first I'm going through the top hole, then I'm gonna go through the top hole of the signature. Now that we're on the inside, go back down through the bottom hole and through the spine. And you can see those beads, how they're looking so far. And now at this point, of course, I need to add beads to this section. So again, changing needles and beading away. Back to the binding needle. And now, of course, we're going to go in through the middle hole, make everything nice and tight. You don't want to be splitting that thread. But to make my life easier, I go through the cover first and then through the signature. And here we go. Everything is loosely loose, but that's quite all right because now we are going to tighten. Like really tighten up. Don't do this, don't tighten to the side because you might rip through your page. Chop this off, tighten again, and tie a knot, and a double knot, and an S knot. The S knot is when you go through the top and through the bottom, or I should say under the bottom, you create an S, and then you go through the loop and through the loop and then tighten. So essentially you are creating a third knot, but the third knot is not sitting on top of the other two knots, so you're not creating too much bulk. And I feel like I really need to knot quite a lot because this is a very, it moves. I'm scared that it's gonna kind of get undone. I might even pop a little bit of glue here and let it dry open on another day. Not today, not today. And that's the first signature bound. Look at those beautiful beads. Excellent. And now I'm going to repeat the same steps for second signature and I'll be right back. And look at this. Glorious, is it not? You can completely skip the beads. You don't have to do a beaded spine. I'm sure you know that already. Okay, now we have come to the most important part of this video. This is what the video is all about. We are going to design what we're going to do. And I'm going to talk about what kind of things to keep in mind, or rather what kind of things to prepare. So what I did here, it's all quite messy. Oh, by the way, when I was in Bosnia, Sarajevo, my birthplace, I purchased this book. I was there just recently, a few months ago, and I purchased this book because I mean, just look at it, right? I mean, you can get these books really anywhere, online and stuff, but this is also a little bit of inspiration, I suppose you can say. So what I'm looking at when I'm building my pieces is this, let's call it almost like a mandala effect or symmetry. I'm not just throwing stuff everywhere, right? I'm looking for symmetry. So anyway, there's a little bit of inspiration there. And I just wanted to show you what kind of things I have here. I have this piece from a belt. This is from a necklace. Really anything blingy that you have, bring it out. I have a whole bunch of buttons. And you know I love using buttons, and I was using quite a lot of these buttons in the pieces that I've already made. Then I have these bling, what are they called? Gems, you know, things like that and things like this. And I just surround myself with pieces that I think I would like to use that I have acquired over the years through various places. Then I have things like this. I got this off Facebook Marketplace. There was a whole bunch of these things. Then again, broken necklaces, you know, ask your friends. I always say this, tell everyone, don't throw away your old jewelry. Give it to moi. And then things like this. How cool is this? This here is also an old belt that I pulled apart. This here is actually a USB stick, but it's a USB stick no more. And then I have things like this, anything blingy and a little bit special. And things like this. This is from Tapeology. Let's have a little peek in my box of old jewelry that my friend has given me. This is all costume jewelry that after a while, you know, things fall off and people don't want to wear anymore. And then they usually donate, in which case something like this, perhaps they wouldn't want to sell it and they might throw it in the bin. I cannot believe. This is a ring. I don't know how I'm going to use that. But you can see all of these bling pieces from jewelry, from buttons, from, I don't know, rings and bracelets. And these are perhaps a bit chunky. I'm just showing you this to maybe, I don't know, not inspire, but look at this. Just give you ideas, I suppose. And brooches like this. And what's this? Earrings. Perhaps this could be donated because it looks brand new and not worn. Like I said, this is all my friend gave all of this to me. And this, I use this in my Halloween journal as a closure. All right, those are the kinds of things you want to look for. I'm going to start working on this one in a moment, and I'm going to do all different variations that I can think of right here on video. We'll speed it up, you know, and there's just so many different things that we can do, but I wanted to show you these just to give you more ideas. Here I used a little frame, and I've had these frames for years really, and they're just nothing special really. They're supposed to be put on gifts, but of course I take the stuff out and just use the frame. So that's that one. Then I have a centerpiece here. Then this is from, I can't remember, bracelet or a necklace, just broken pieces, broken off pieces. And then these are the buttons. The shank, they are actually shank buttons like this, but I've removed the shank. And then on this one here, I have this circle, the big circle that you see, is actually a piece of cork. It's this, is a cork, what's it called? Is it called cork? I don't know what it's called. Anyway, I painted it gold and voila. And then I have little gems stuck on. This is from a necklace, and then just little pieces, right? So we're working from center out. All right, so I'm just going to start playing around with placement of things and what I kind of want to do. Maybe something like this, maybe something like this. No, I don't like that. I'll go back to this. Then perhaps I want to have buttons. That's looking good. Then maybe I want to have something here on the four edges of this square. I'm not pressing anything down. These have a little bit of glue at the back, but I'm just kind of gently putting it down. How's this looking? Not that great. Here's another button, but I've already removed the shank. How's this looking? Is that a little bit too symmetrical? You know, might be a little bit too symmetrical. What do we have here? This doesn't even go. But we're just placing things. The only way to know is just to place things and go from there. All right, what about if I add a little bit of color? I don't have many of these. These are so beautiful. Look at these pieces. But how about we do something a little bit different? Maybe we can have that there in the middle, and then I can just have a play, you know, just pop things down, move things around. Oh, you see how that's already, I don't know if it's coming across in the video. My goodness, it's so bright and lively in real life, but in the video it looks very dull. Okay, how about we add blue? Okay, I'm not liking these. How about we do something like this? Okay, I've turned the light off. It just is what it is. Okay, now, do we need more? Yes, we need more, because we're blinging it right up. We're just gonna go for it. How about I add these in the middle? No, I don't like it, because then we have one straight line here, but it kind of looks like a cross, which those medieval books, those treasure binding books that I've shown you, they do have that religious symbolism, I suppose. How about we do something like this, and then a little something in the middle. Do exactly the same thing on the other side. I am liking this. The only thing I don't like is that we have this straight line, and then this kind of not right. Maybe I can go with these. I've used this quite a bit. I don't know what this is. I got it in a $2 shop, silver and gold, and I just cut them up. Like I just cut little strips, and then see that? If I glued that down, ooh, that's looking good. Let's see. I think if you have been lucky enough to find a partner for a life kind of thing, if you've been married, or you're still married or whatever, you know when you really fall in love and you just know that that person is the one. That is the feeling that you're looking for in crafting. So if you ask yourself, oh, I'm not sure if this looks okay, maybe I should ask Teresa to tell me, maybe I should, I don't know, post a picture online and ask people to tell me what they think because I'm not sure if it's working, then it's not working. I could be totally wrong with this train of thought, but I always felt like when you know, you know. So when you're designing, keep that in mind. If you're questioning yourself and it's just something's not right, you need to keep going. You will know when it's like perfection. You will know when to stop. I am really liking this so far. That looks so nice. Look at it. I don't think I need to keep going. I'm really quite happy with this. But just for fun, I'm going to remove these last bits and do something different just so you can see that perhaps there could be more than the one. What do we think? Which one's better? This one or this one? I actually like this one better. I think I'm going to go with this one. I wish you could see it in real life. Just looks brilliant. But for some reason in the video it just doesn't come across, but I'm quite happy with this. And what you do at this stage is take a photo, take a screenshot, which I just did, so that's done and dusted, and then you remove everything. Don't mix it up with all your other stuff. You just want to have the pieces that you need at hand. All right, so all the pieces I need are right there, and now we want to glue this piece onto the cover, and the bling pieces are the very last thing that you do. So first, just so you know, I'm going to do all the gluing off camera because it does require patience and a little bit of time and love, and I don't want to bore you to death, but I will tell you all the important things before I start. But first things first, you want this piece to really be glued down because it's going to have weight on it, and this is just paper. I assume you might be using paper as well, so you want to use the strongest glue you have in your arsenal. For me, that's this Yes paste. It's very old. I mean, just look at that, how disgusting. But I only use it for I don't know, we can't find it here. We can't buy this here in Australia, last I checked anyway. And it's very, very strong glue. But if you don't have Yes paste, of course, just use whatever glue you have. I mostly use Yes paste when I really want to get all of the edges down, because sometimes when you apply liquid glue to the edges, it kind of doesn't go all the way to the edge, and then you have little bits that slightly lift off. I don't want that in this project. I want it to be completely flush with my cover. And then, because I like to double, triple, and quadruple make sure that everything is glued down nicely, I go in with a second glue. And if I go gluing it down, oh yes, down it goes. I really could have made this cover a little bit shorter, but there's nothing I can do about that now. So we're making sure that everything is nice and really pressed down. And this is where you start gluing the pieces when your book is finished, when it's complete. All right, here comes the important stuff. For gluing the pieces, these heavy, big, chunky gems, I use E6000 glue. It's for jewelry and beads, so it's very strong. It does take 24 hours to dry or something like that. I only recently purchased this, and up until now I've been using other glues that I have. So if I didn't have this glue, then I would use the next strongest glue that I have, which is this one, Art Glitter Glue. Then I have this one, I don't know how it's pronounced. I pronounce it Uhu glue. This is German glue, I think, and I've got this overseas, but you can find, of course, you know this brand. It actually states here that it will glue metal down. So you want a glue, like read your glue and see what it says. You want the glue to be strong enough to hold metal pieces down. We don't need to keep going, but we will. There's also glossy accents. I'm not going to use this. Okay, one thing that I will not recommend, just stay away from it, don't even go there, is hot glue. Hot glue and, you know, hot glue gun. I've been down that route before, and what happens is they simply just, you can just literally pop them off. Okay, hot glue gun I would use for fabrics, and I don't know, I use it for other things, but for this, definitely not hot glue. In fact, I'll show you something. I will demonstrate now. Right here on camera, I'm willing to ruin a piece so I can demonstrate, because I used hot glue on this is actually two pieces, this and this metal bit, and I used hot glue, and I thought, oh, fabulous, right? But then what happens is this. I'm not even going to use force. Look at this. Comes right off. You can see that hot glue there. Comes right off, just pops off. What a waste of time that was. All right, so I learned my lesson there. I'm gonna have to go back to all of these pieces and re-glue. See? Such a shame, 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 shame. So no hot glue, ladies and gent. Another thing that I wanted to show you how to do, in case you haven't seen me do it a million times before, is the shank buttons. You know, I just remove the shank using my pliers, or, yeah, there's no or. I'm using my pliers. Some shank pieces come off easier than others. And then the reason why I wanted to show you this again is because once you remove the shank piece, your button may not be flat, which for a lot of projects it's absolutely fine, but for this project you want to, in order to for this to be glued down and stay glued down on the cover of your book, it has to be flat. And if you can see this, it's not flat, because no matter how much I try to remove that shank, no matter how much I really try, there's always a little bit that's still sticking out, and I really want to get rid of that. So I just file it down. You can use sanding paper, like really coarse sanding paper, or you can use a little machine. You can use, like, I have this little machine. You can use something like this and sand it down. Oh yes, this is for nails, by the way. All right, so that's important point number 2, and I'm pretty sure that that's all I wanted to say before I start gluing down. The way that I kind of begin is I will do the center, and I'm really being pedantic with everything being symmetrical here. So I might do the buttons, for example, or my corners here. So I'll start the center, then I will do my corners. I will glue them down. Then I'm going to go back to the center, and I'm always referring back to my photo, which I don't have now because it's in my phone and I'm filming with my phone. So I'm kind of working from memory over here. I think it was like this. I will glue these pieces down, and then just keep on going. I'll do one side, do the other side. I can't remember what I had here up the top. I think it was something like this. So I would glue this center piece down first, and then I will go to the sides looking for a center between this piece and this piece, glue that in the center, and then do the same over here and keep going. I'm gonna have to do all of this off camera because it is time consuming and fiddly, business. So I will do it off camera, come back when it's done. I just wanted to say, when you put glue on your piece, doesn't matter which glue you use, and then you put your piece down, and when you press your piece down, some of the glue might seep out. Look how cool this looks. Just that one little thing in the middle, that would be like, that would, you can call this journal done, really. When there's glue seeping out, I like to clean that up. There's nothing worse than glue seeping everywhere. If you have a closer look, look at that. Can you see any glue? I hope not. I didn't really check. Should have checked first. Let's see. Let's find some glue seeping, because you can't have everything perfect. So I'm sure there's I did a pretty good job. I did this one really late last night, so probably there's some glue. Oh, here we go. So you can see a little bit of messy bits here, and you can see some messy bits here. It doesn't have to be factory produced kind of looking, but you also don't want to have glue all over the place. I found some more. See here, you can see that glue. That's fine, you know, a little bit of glue seeping is, you really have to look for it. You don't want it to be the first thing that people see, all the glue seeping out. All right, so just keep that in mind. All right, I'm gonna go and do this, and I'll be back probably tomorrow. Hi, it is indeed the next day, and this glorious beauty is finished. I would say it took me about 10 to 15 minutes to glue everything down yesterday, and using the E6000 glue means that it takes about 24 hours for the glue to cure and for everything to be securely stuck down. So it's pretty good using that glue, because you have quite a bit of time to maneuver everything in place. So it's done, and it's looking stunning, and in the video the colors are muted. I'm not sure why this is the case, but it's so vibrant in real life, and I'm absolutely in love. In fact, my whole family is in love, and that actually says something, because for people who don't really quite understand the things that we do, and I'm sure you have people like that in your life, oftentimes we make things and people just are like, oh, that's nice, you know, it's no big deal. But occasionally you make a project that everybody loves, and this project is one of those projects for my family anyway. I showed it to my husband, to my kids, and everyone was like, oh, wow. Okay, so a total hit. You have to let me know, please, what your thoughts are, what you think of this project, and will you be making it? And if you do make it, I would love for you to share photos in my Facebook group. Link is down below in the description box if you're not a member already. I would just love to see everybody's take on this treasure binding kind of a thing. I am just so in love with this project, and in fact I have decided that I'm going to keep these beauties. Look how beautiful and oriental that looks. I'm going to keep them on my shelf. I don't know where. I'm going to find a spot. I'm going to keep them in my living room, not in my craft room. I'm talking in my living room where everybody can see it at all times. That's how much I love this. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.